he looked after the Penske operation for many years before setting up his own outfit. Ran Robbie Gordon for quite a few years, up until this year. And of course, Robbie moved over from this championship over to the NASCAR series.
Yeah. Robbie never really seemed totally at ease in this form of racing. And it's interesting that, you know, with the exception of Rahal, who learned to race in Europe, that's really where his grounding was. But that's still not too many United States drivers come and make it in single-seater racing. Obviously the Unsers and the Andretti's do, but you know, we've seen the Canadian drivers, we see the European drivers, we see the Brazilian drivers, but still there isn't that tradition. They either go into a NASCAR or something else.
Of course, Jimmy Vasser. Jimmy Vasser is one of the American guys who has come up through the ranks. He actually won the Formula Ford Championship, one of the Formula Ford Championships. He also won the Formula Atlantic Series in the States. So he worked his way up, but he had it fairly tough. I suppose another one, another top American youngster that we've got to consider is Bryan Herta, who's actually running in third place here and rated very, very highly by quite a few drivers.
Yes.
And in fact, I think it was Barry Green who was quoted as saying to Bobby Rahal, well, you've got the best young American there is out there in your team with Bryan Herta. And again, he's come up through the ranks. He did the Barber Saab series, as it was known, very successful in Indy Lights as well, Bryan Herta. So definitely a talent for the future, and they're running in third place today.
Yeah, Barry, obviously, he's another one who's gone away from being a mechanic to driving himself in Europe, going over there, becoming a mechanic. They're getting his own team now.
Well, as Bryan Herta continues in third, we'll take another break. Rahal still leads.
Live to the PPG Kart World Series with Husqvarna, Forest and Garden Products.
Back at the Rio 400, and Bobby Rahal's doing what he's been doing quite a lot really this afternoon, and that's cruising around slowly because of the yellow flag period we're running under now at number 95 out of 133. And we are getting closer to a restart now. They've cleared up most of the mess, but as you can see, it's still a marshal out on circuit at the moment, and they're waving them around. What they've done is they've swept the circuit where the cement dust was down, tried to clean it up a little bit, and they're just in the finishing stages of that and trying to keep the drivers off that oily line. So hopefully, relatively soon, we should get racing underway. But safety is of paramount importance here, Robin, and they spend a lot of time, a lot of effort cleaning up the circuit as best they can.
Absolutely. There's 38 laps to go, and I'm surprised one of the front runners hasn't taken the risk of doing a pit stop.
As you speak, indeed. The two Ganassi cars come into the pits, and one of the Brahma cars was there as well. And I wonder if they're just topping up, or I wonder what they're doing there. Now that was interesting. Did they actually take on fuel there? Not quite sure what was going on there. It was almost as though they just stopped and went again. Quite what that was all about. But the two Ganassi cars are back out once more. They didn't really seem like they did an awful lot. We'll have to see what happens with those two. That's dropped them down the line again, of course, so they're going to have to do a bit of overtaking once they restart. Bobby Rahal will have the attentions of Paul Tracy right behind him, Bryan Herta, Greg Moore, Gilles de Ferran in 5th, Alanza Jr. in 6th. Mark Blundell's moved up to 7th as a result of all this, with the two Ganassi cars dropping down the order again. So Mark is 7th, Jourdain 8th, Bozell 9th, and Richie Hearn is in 10th place. And it looks as though it could be fairly soon now. Well, now, interesting, leaders coming in. Bryan Herta coming into the pits. He wasn't the only one. There was one or two. I think Al Unser Jr. may have followed him into the pit lane as well. Yes, Unser Jr. into the pits. So, more strategy, more tactics going on here. Bobby Rahal leads round, but Al Unser Jr. into the pit lane, and we're seeing a great build-up now towards the climax of this race.
Yeah, it's 36 laps to go. Provided Little Al gets out before the car comes round, that's very much his advantage.
What a battle. They're so evenly matched here today. We had 17 cars qualify within a second of each other in qualifying. I mean, that just shows you, okay, it's an oval track and it's not that long, 1.8 miles, but nonetheless, 17 cars in a second. It's that sort of closeness that we've seen during the race as well, in that everybody seems to be able to run much the same pace. So it really comes down to positioning yourself on the track, through the pit stops, through clever thinking, good work with your engineers back in the pits. And it looks as though we're getting set to go racing once again. Bobby Rahal leads Paul Tracy out of turn 4 for the 98th time to get racing underway once again. Rahal leads. And now we have 35 laps to go. Rahal across the line. Second place for Tracy, Moore in third. And Gilles de Ferran has popped up into fourth place because Jourdain was listed up there, but he's actually dropping down the order again now. And behind de Ferran is Boesel. Now then, can Bobby Rahal maintain the sort of pace that we've seen? Are we going to see Rahal's first victory in 5 years? What a story that would be if Rahal could hold on to this position. But it all depends on what everybody else has done in the pits as well, the likes of Scott Pruitt, for example, who's down in 11th place, and whether Bobby is going to have to stop again for fuel and thereby lose the chance to win. Oh, we've got a yellows again, Robin. A yellow flag again. And we gather it's something to do with Jourdain is involved. We heard some report that Moreno might be involved, but it looks like Michel Jourdain, who's actually hit the barrier pretty hard. And a yellow flag again. I can't believe it. It just seems to be one of those days where the yellows keep on flying. Yesterday, we had a NASCAR race that had no yellow flags in it at all for 500 miles. And today, I think the IndyCar boys are trying to make up for that, because we're now into yet another yellow period, and there's a bit more clearing up to do. These safety guys really have had a half afternoon's work. Michel Jourdain's all right, though. Young Mexican driver who earned this drive really out of a test, and they tested several drivers, and he's really quite impressive. I was talking to his race engineer just last week, and he's driving a Lola chassis, looked after by Mike Wright, and he was saying that Michel is actually a really good driver. He's very impressed by him, but they've had very little chance to do a lot of testing. They've had an inordinate number of engine problems for some reason, which really has limited the amount of development testing they've been able to do. Every time they go out, they seem to have some niggly little problem, and they haven't been able to develop this car as they would like to. But he really rates Michel Jourdain, and thinks he's got a good future. Moreno was involved by the looks of it, because he's come into the pits and is finally out of the race. So, let's have a look, see if we can find out what happened. Jourdain lost it. He was up with the leaders, remember. Now, did Moreno get tangled up in some of the debris, or was that totally separate? That may have been something completely different. That was the accident to Michel Jourdain. So there's the leaders back out, and Jourdain's car being cleared up. Just talking about Jourdain being in the Lola car, Robin. Of course, Lola are going through a difficult time, it has to be said, at the moment.
Yeah, all manufacturers, as I know well, have your ups and your downs, and Lolas are having a big down at the moment. But they're good people, and we all hope they'll be back.
Let's hope so, yes. It's not a good time for them. They've sold very few Indy cars this year, and the car hasn't proved to be as competitive as they would like. It's ironic when you think Michael Andretti did so well with the Lola last year. He had 5 wins last year.
It was interesting. I was talking to Mark Mosler this week. He was a Reynard designer. He admitted last year probably the Lola was the overall the best car. But they took on a lot and maybe went the wrong way in a few things strategically. And it's created problems. And we've said on, you like to beat your adversaries, but you don't want to beat them in this way. And I know Reynard and Swift, Penske would say exactly the same.
Now you've been through all this yourself,
yeah,
with March, haven't you? I mean, a great success, and then of course the things can just change overnight, can't they?
Very quickly. I mean, it has to do with my giving it in, but I gave it in at the end of '86, and we'd won 22 of the previous 24 races. 5 on the way to 5 Indies on the trot. Nothing to do with my sort of giving it in and doing F1, but we just then went plummeted. And it can happen, as you say, pretty much overnight.
Well, the car's still touring around behind the pace car at the moment, and Bobby Rahal now got just 32 laps to complete once the green flag flies once again. And to try and hold on for this victory. It would be a great story if he does. Absolutely fantastic. The 3 times winner of the championship, but it's not all going to be his own way. There's still some other guys who've made pit stops. Here's one, for example, Scott
Roberto,
Pruitt.
I know that the fans
We've got
here
Roberto
really
Moreno.
appreciate your efforts, but what happened? It sounded like an engine-related problem.
What made us stop now? We have a misfire. Until we try to fix it, it might be a long time. So with the tube accident, one that I believe was Tracy that hit the back of my wheel and made me spin. We recovered from there quite well. We're looking good. I was trying to overtake Gugelmin, and then a crazy guy went on the outside of Mauricio somehow, and Mauricio starts a spin and hit my front wheel, and I had to go into a spin and went backwards into the tire wall. The team, the Kmart Budweiser team, did a fantastic job to change the wing, got me back there. Even with a bent steering arm, the car felt really good, and I was putting down some good times and catching the guys in front and made some great passing. But with a couple laps down and a misfire, so we decided to pack it and go home and wait for the next one.
Well, Roberto Moreno is going to go join his fans now. We'll go down and join Marty Reid.
Yes, and we've caught up with Michel Jourdain. I know you're disappointed. Take us through what happened.
I'm very sorry for the team. I mean, they did a great job. The strategy was very good. We were in 5th place, I think, and I think we could make it until the race, until the end of the race with the fuel. But the brakes were going down and down and down and down, and I just arrived to 4 and there was no brakes. I thought I was going to run over Gilles de Ferran, and I mean, it was like the 5th time I thought I was going out, and I was trying to take care on them. But I'm sorry for the whole RDS Club Mexico, because they did a great job, and I hope we have a better race in St. Louis.
Hey, the one positive is you're okay, and you get them in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
So there, the view of Michel Jourdain, the young Mexican, who, as I said, promising driver, but obviously at the moment still learning the art of driving IndyCars. And if you've got a soft brake pedal, it can't help very much in this sort of situation.
Especially when you're braking from 200 miles an hour down to 100 miles an hour.
Yes.
He's a good guy. It'd be nice to see the Mexicans in, because then you've got Canadians, United States people, Mexicans, Brazilians. I'm sure we'll see some Argentinians in before long.
That's right, yes, coming up through the ranks. Of course, we've got another Mexican in Adrian Fernandez in the championship as well. So it's got a fair bit of interest in Mexico. They love it down there as well. And it's good to spread its wings a little bit. Now then, Bobby's bunching them all up a bit here, isn't he? Just getting them all nice and close together. And the master tactician, he's almost the professor type of IndyCar, isn't he?
He's a canny old bird. It's going to be interesting to see what he's... I hope they show us taking around, but he'll try and get a flyer to get a jump on the others, and just to see how he tries and does it. So he accelerated away then.
Well, can Rahal hold on to take the victory here? We should find out whether Rahal can do it soon. Paul Tracy behind. Rahal just, look at this, just playing with the accelerating and backing off, trying to stretch out the advantage when they come round to take the green flag once again. 44 years old he might be, but there are no flies on him, and he's determined to stay away from Paul Tracy on this restart.
It's rather like those cycle races, you know, where they sort of just go at about half a mile and a half and most of it, then get that tactical jump, and that's what he'll try and do. He'll try to accelerate when they're not expecting. He'll be able to do it super well then.
Yeah, he's done all right, but Tracy's read it. Tracy has stayed with him, and he's read that one really well. Out of turn 4, Tracy's had a great run. It's an opportunity here, surely, for Paul Tracy to have a go into turn 1. But is he close enough? Is he got the straight line speed? He just can't seem to get it. And it looks as though, not quite do it. It looks as though the Penske's are basically running a bit too much downforce, because he just can't seem to get the speed at the end of the straight to actually dive past anybody. He couldn't do it before with Gilles de Ferran, and he can't do it now with Bobby Rahal. And maybe some of these other teams have sort of gone for a rather low drag setup to make sure they're quick on the straights, and Paul Tracy just can't take advantage of his speed through the corners enough to make up for it. Quick there, you see, into the top corner, but then as they get down to the end of this straight, let's see again, does Rahal pull away, or can Tracy this time tuck in?